everyone, this is Karen.
Welcome everybody, I am Shane.
Today we're looking at part 1 of Where do birds go in bad weather?
Interesting question.
And the vocabulary words are underground.
Underground.
There are many animals that spend their whole lives underground.
Survive.
Survive.
Camels can survive for up to 7 months in the desert without drinking water.
Wow, that's really impressive. Feather.
Feather.
Justin's winter jacket is filled with duck feathers.
Trap.
Trap.
Keeping doors closed within the house will trap heat in each room.
Temperature.
Temperature.
The doctor took my temperature to make sure I didn't have a fever. I don't think I have a fever, do I?
You feel pretty normal.
Very good.
All right, so have you ever thought about this question? Where do the birds go in bad weather? Like if it starts raining or snowing or it's super cold, where do they go?
To be honest, I have never really thought about this question.
Well, we have heard that birds migrate south for the winter.
That's right.
We have heard that. But if they're not going to leave town, where are they going to go?
Especially when it's raining and it's raining really, really hard. I mean, we can wear jackets, we can wear raincoats, right? But where do they go?
Well, you know, actually, so they have feathers, right? So first of all, they have to find trees, or bushes,
shelter,
some kind of shelter. And their feathers actually do have like pockets, can store pockets of air in them, which can help to insulate them and keep them warm.
Yes, because or else they would lose heat too quickly and they can't find their food either, so they might die from starvation.
Well, what would they do if it's raining for a while? What will they do if they need to go out and catch some food?
One thing that's really, really cool, because many birds, they can actually waterproof their feather.
Whoa.
Yeah, by using the oil stored at the base of their tail, so they don't lose heat so quickly.
That's so cool.
I
don't
know.
get wet. Awesome.
Didn't know that.
All right, let's learn more
about beautiful birds.
Okay.
Where do birds go in bad weather? A rainy day might call for a quiet day at home with a cup of hot chocolate. But for our friends in the animal kingdom, rain can be a matter of life and death. While small animals like rabbits can go underground, how do birds survive bad weather?
Today's lesson is called, Where do birds go in bad weather? Part 1. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
And I'm Mike, and that is a great question. Yes, it rains, it snows, and in Taiwan we have typhoons. But where do the birds go? I guess they would hide in a tree, but if it's raining for days and days or just heavy rain, wouldn't the birds get wet with their little feathers? I mean,
and wouldn't their nests get blown out of the trees if the wind is strong?
Some of them could find somewhere to hide under a building or a roof or something, but not all of them. And the big birds, where do they go? It's a good question.
These are all good questions.
Amazing questions.
Let's go ahead and start answering them right now. The first line of our lesson says, a rainy day might call for a quiet day at home with a cup of hot chocolate. Yeah, that's good for us. But what about animals? What about birds? But for our friends in the animal kingdom, rain can be a matter of life and death.
Wow, there you go. Something's a matter of life and death. This is a situation where you could get hurt or even killed. Like wearing a helmet while you're on a scooter, well, that could be a matter of life and death. Sure, you could get to the store safely, but if something bad happens, you could die. It could be a matter of life and death. For us, falling off a scooter while going fast, that could be a matter of life and death. For birds, rain could be. As it says, while small animals like rabbits can go underground, how do birds survive bad weather? Well, yeah, sure, lots of animals have different ways of getting out of the rain. If you're a digging animal, like a rabbit, you can go underground. I mean, some animals like the rain, like frogs or something. They probably enjoy a nice rainy day. But birds, they don't have these simple ways of getting out or dealing with the rain.
Nor do they have umbrellas.
No.
And ponchos.
Raincoats.
So what do they do? Anyways, let's go ahead and move on here and talk about some vocabulary. The first vocabulary word of the day is the adverb underground, which means under the ground. Let's say you dig a hole and then you go in that hole. In a matter of speaking, you are now underground.
What if you're a miner?
If you're a miner digging a tunnel, trying to get coal, you're underground.
How about
you're
an
doing
ant?
that particular activity underground. If you are in the anthill, if you're down there in those many, many tunnels, you are underground, under the ground, beneath the ground, I think. That's pretty clear now. For example, there are many animals that spend their whole lives underground. Maybe like worms and moles.
Ooh, good one. Gophers, groundhogs. Yeah, another good one. All right, let's talk about this verb to survive. To survive is basically to not die. Congratulations, you did not die. You survived. Now, we use this word, though, when talking about situations where you could die, okay? Just getting up and going through your normal day when nothing dangerous happened, it might be a little strange to say, hey, you survived Tuesday. Well, I didn't do anything on Tuesday except go to school and come home. But if you were on a boat in a typhoon, if you were caught in an avalanche while skiing on a mountain, if you were in a car crash or some kind of terrible accident and you didn't die, you may have been hurt, but you didn't die, you survived. Congratulations. So it's the idea of living through something that could have killed you or could have caused you to have a big problem with your life. For example, camels can survive for up to 7 months in the desert without drinking water. So they can live, they cannot die even without having water for 7 months. I think with humans it's what, 3 or 4 days?
Yep.
It would be hard to survive after 3 or 4 days without water for us.
You'd probably die.
Even if we're underground.
Even if you're underground. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back.
You survived the first part of the article.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Well done.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。同学们有没有觉得外面下大雨的时候，最适合在家里睡觉了？有雨声的陪伴，感觉更好睡耶。可是你有没有想过，在狂风暴雨的时候，外面的动物要躲去哪？那么课文就写到说，对于我们动物界的朋友来说，下雨可能是生死攸关的事情。也许像兔子这类的小动物，它们还可以躲到地底下。那么鸟类要怎么在坏天气当中生存呢？而且它们也不像人类有雨伞、雨衣、斗篷什么可以帮忙遮雨，对不对？老师们刚刚提到这个 poncho P-O-N-C-H-O poncho 就是指斗篷或是披风的意思。那这边还有2个单字 underground。Underground 这个副词表示在地下，在地面下。那么老师们提到一些会挖地洞的小动物，像是 mole 是指鼹鼠， gopher 是囊鼠，它是北美一种地鼠，还有 groundhog 是土拨鼠。好，下一个单词 survive。Survive 是动词，它是指幸存或是活下来，常常用来指在意外事件中幸存，可能像是车祸或是雪崩等等。Mike 老师有说到 avalanche 就是指雪崩、山崩，那这个字是拼作 A-V-A-L-A-N-C-H-E avalanche。这话课文中。
Where do birds go in bad weather? Rain poses 2 dangers to birds, heat loss and starvation. A bird's feathers trap pockets of air to keep the bird warm. But if those pockets fill with water, the bird's body temperature could drop too quickly and it could die. Many birds can waterproof their feathers by using oil stored at the base of their tails. This allows them to fly in the rain for short distances, though most wait in trees or find shelter under bushes until the rain stops.
Okay, so where do the little birdies go when it rains? Now, you might be thinking, this isn't that big a deal, right? No, it is. For birds, this is a matter of life and death because rain poses two dangers to birds: heat loss and starvation. They get cold and hungry.
Oh, okay, heat loss. All right, yeah, sure. If we're out in the rain for a long time, we could die from heat loss, right? It's called exposure. Your body just gets too cold, and then bad things happen on the inside. What do birds do? Well, of course, we wear clothes. What do birds do? A bird's feathers trap pockets of air to keep the bird warm. Okay, this is the same thing we would do on a cold day. You put on a shirt and then another shirt and then a sweater and then a jacket. By wearing these different layers, you are trapping pockets of air to keep your skin and your body warm. Birds use feathers.
Birds use feathers.
Not sweaters.
Now, do birds have hair? Maybe on the top of their heads there, or on their belly. No, but for the most part, birds don't have hair. Those things that you see on their bodies that help them fly, that might look like leaves even, those are called feathers, although feathers are usually much more beautiful than leaves are. Anyways, for example, Justin's winter jacket is filled with duck feathers. I believe that jackets are often stuffed with feathers like that, the soft down feathers of a duck or some other animal.
That's right, yeah. Birds have those two types of feathers, right? Down, those are the soft ones we find in pillows. Those are the ones that keep them warm. And then, of course, the flight feathers or the flying feathers. Those are the long, stiff ones in the wings that help them to fly around. But these act as their sort of shirt and their sweater, their jacket.
They trap heat.
To trap this heat, to trap this air that keeps them warm. When you trap something, you capture it. You keep it somewhere where you can keep it safe or you can control it or something like that. When we think of a trap, you might think of something that you might catch a mouse in or a cage that you might catch an animal in. You trap the animal in that trap. We actually call those simple machines traps for catching animals, but we can use it in lots of other ways. If you're closing the windows in your apartment, in your home, in your house on a cold day to keep the warm air inside, you're closing the windows to trap the air, trap this warm air inside, in the same way that you close your fridge door to trap the cold air inside the fridge to keep your food fresh. You're keeping it somewhere where you can control it and use it in some way. For example, keeping doors closed within the house will trap heat in each room. Good in the winter, not so good in the summer.
True. Now, more on these birds. But if those pockets fill with water, yes, where before there was heat, there is now water. This happens, the bird's body temperature could drop too quickly and it could die.
I'm just thinking about wearing a cold, wet shirt on a cold day.
That's
uncomfortable.
Pretty awful. Anyways, here we have the word temperature to talk about. It is a noun. Temperature is how hot or cold something is. I think that 25 degrees Celsius is a nice temperature, okay? Not too hot, not too cold. 35 degrees, on the other hand, starting to get hot, and well, 0 degrees, that's the temperature at which water freezes and becomes ice, and that is in degrees Celsius, to be clear. For example, the doctor took my temperature to make sure I didn't have a fever. Yeah, you're not feeling too hot there. You don't have a fever, though. Hey, your temperature is normal.
36.4?
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a pretty normal temperature.
Anyways, moving on.
Yes.
These poor birds, many birds, though, can waterproof their feathers by using oil stored at the base of their tails. How about that? And oil and water, do they mix? No.
Absolutely. And of course, the oil will also help to trap that warm air, trap the temperature, the heat inside their body. And it says also this allows them to fly in the rain for short distances, though most wait in trees or find shelter under bushes until the rain stops. All right, so they could fly, but if they're flying in the rain, it's probably flying over to a tree or a bush or under a building of some kind so that they can get out of the rain. They use these trees and bushes and other things as, their umbrellas or a roof over their head. That's how they do it. But of course, this is only in your average sort of rain shower. We're not dealing with really extreme weather. We're going to learn more, though, about what birds do to survive in extreme conditions after the break.
雨会对鸟类造成2种威胁：失温和饥饿。那么鸟的羽毛呢，会积聚气囊来让它们保暖。但如果这些气囊充满了水，鸟的体温可能就会降得太快，而导致死亡。那么刚刚讲到失温的时候，麦克老师是用到 exposure 这个字 ，exposure。exposure 除了指暴露或者是曝光，它也可以用来表达可能是暴露于严寒的环境而导致像冻伤或是受寒的意思。好，那这边还有3个单字 feather 表示羽毛。老师们聊到说，鸟类的羽毛基本上有2种类型，一个是 down feather， 就是绒羽，它是一层生长在这种外层羽毛下面的那种纤细羽毛。那至于 flight feather， 飞羽或者是飞翔羽，它是又长又坚韧的强大羽毛，用来帮助它们飞翔的。好，那么下一个单字 trap 它可以指陷阱，对不对？或者指困住。好，那在这边呢，它就是当动词来表达采集、储存，或是把什么空气或是热气把它困在哪里这样子。好，再来看到 temperature 它表示温度。那我们在讲温度的时候，通常会用摄氏来表达。顺便学一下 Celsius 就是形容摄氏的，它是拼作 Celsius。当我们说几度 C 的那个 C 就代表 Celsius。好，课文这里写到说，许多鸟类呢可以借由使用储存在尾巴的根部的油脂，让它们羽毛不会透水，让它们可以在雨中短途飞行。不过大多数的鸟就会在树上等，或者是在灌木丛下呢找到一些遮蔽的地方等待雨停。好，接着回到课文中。
Where do birds go in bad weather? If the rain lasts for more than a few hours, birds will be left with no choice but to brave the weather in search of food. Small birds, especially those that feed on insects, have a particularly hard time in the rain. Their small bodies lose heat quickly, and the bugs they feed on stay out of sight when it rains.
A couple of hours of rain, no sweat. That bird, it can hide in a tree, under a bush, something like that, no problemo. But if the rain lasts for more than a few hours, things change. Birds will be left with no choice but to brave the weather in search of food.
Oh,
yes,
that's
birds,
right.
they have to constantly eat for the most part. So if it rains and rains and rains, at a certain point the bird says, you know what? I might get cold, but I can't starve to death, so I'm going to brave the weather.
That's a good point. And of course, when we're cold, our bodies burn up the food that we have, our energy, even faster. So this is the other danger. They can die of cold, or they can also die of hunger from not eating. And for small birds, it says small birds, especially those that feed on insects, have a particularly hard time in the rain because, there aren't a lot of bugs or insects flying around in the rain either. Their small bodies lose heat quickly, and the bugs they feed on stay out of sight when it rains. We often think of that picture of the bird eating the worm in the ground, and worms might come out in the rain, but there aren't that many worms around for all of the birds to eat. So hunger and starvation become a very serious danger.
All right, folks, that's it for today's lesson, but stay tuned. We'll have more on what birds do when the weather is bad next time.
I'm going to take some birds out to McDonald's, I think. Give them a good meal.
刚刚说大多数的鸟会在树上或是找一些遮蔽的地方来等待雨停，但如果雨持续下超过几个小时，这就会让鸟类别无选择，它们只能勇敢地冒雨去觅食寻找食物。那么小型鸟，尤其是以昆虫为食的鸟，它们在雨中特别的辛苦，因为它们小小的身躯会快速失温，而且呢，它们仰赖为生的虫在下雨的时候也不见踪影，根本就找不到食物。好，最后来看5个重点。第一个 if 引导条件句的用法，我们用 if 去引导条件副词子句来表达说现在或是未来可能发生的情况。那么用来指未来情况时 if 子句的动词要用现在式取代未来式。好，它的句型是 if 主词加动词逗号，主词加上 will may 或是 can 再加原形动词。例如 if it doesn't rain tonight We will have a barbecue in the yard. 如果今晚没下雨，我们将会在院子里面烤肉。第二个重点 leave somebody with no choice but to 加上原形动词，是表达说让某人除了什么什么之外别无选择了。那么 but 在这边呢，意思是指除了什么什么之外，后面是要接不定词片语。例如 The scandal left the politician no choice.But to resign， 那一则丑闻让那位政治人物别无选择，只能请辞下台了。第三个重点 ，in search of something or somebody 是指寻找或是寻求某人或某事物。例如 ，Mia went online in search of dinner ideas。Mia 上网寻找晚餐的点子，看看今天晚餐可以煮什么菜。那么第4个重点 feed on something 是指以什么什么为食，通常是用来描述动物，像是 most spiders feed on insects， 大多数的蜘蛛是以昆虫为食。好，第5个重点 out of sight 是指在看不见的地方，在视线范围之外，动词常常会搭配 stay 或者是 keep。例如 he stayed out of sight。Until the 2 officers walked away， 他待在看不见的地方，直到那2名警员走开为止。好，那么以上是今天课程讲解，谢谢同学们收看咯，我们下次见，拜拜。
See you next time.